That donation box by your back door. The one with the heavy glass bowl wrapped in an old towel. The one you almost carried out this morning because it just catches dust on the shelf. Stop. Set it down. Because I have watched pieces exactly like that one get handed across a thrift counter for $2, and I have watched the same shape of glass close at auction for more than the car in your driveway. Old cut crystal is one of the most misjudged things in any American home. People see a heavy, old-fashioned bowl and think it is worthless clutter from Grandma's china cabinet. They are giving it away by the boxful. And some of those boxes hold pieces worth hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. The reason nobody notices is simple. It looks like plain glass to an untrained eye. It sits quietly. It doesn't shout its own value. Stay with me to the very end, because the single most valuable piece I am going to show you is the one that gets tossed most often. And it is tied to a pattern patented in 1882 that quietly sold for tens of thousands of dollars. I will tell you exactly how to spot it on your own shelf tonight, and I need you to hear this. Years ago, at an estate sale in a cold garage outside Pittsburgh, I watched a woman price a deep-cut bowl at $3 because it had a tiny chip. A dealer bought it, sold it 11 days later for $900. I never forgot her face when she found out. That is why I am telling you all of this now. This is not just about collectors. This is about the things already sitting in your own cabinets. So let me start with the piece almost everyone gets wrong first. Picture a heavy glass bowl, deeply carved with sharp little star shapes, sitting on a shelf gathering dust. Most people call it an old candy dish and never think twice. That plain-looking bowl might be American Brilliant Period cut glass, and that changes everything. The American Brilliant Period ran from about 1876 to 1917. For those 40 years, American factories were cutting some of the finest crystal the world had ever seen. This was not pressed glass poured into a mold. This was thick blanks of leaded glass, cut by hand on stone wheels by craftsmen who spent years learning the trade. Here is how you tell the difference, and you can do this right now. Pick the piece up. Real cut crystal from this period is heavy, surprisingly heavy. It has weight that feels wrong for its size because the lead content is high. Then run your finger across the pattern. The cuts are sharp, genuinely sharp, almost like they could catch your fingernail. Pressed imitation glass feels rounded and soft by comparison because it was squeezed out of a mold, not carved. Now do the one test that never lies. Hold the piece loosely by the base or on your open palm and flick the rim gently with your fingernail. Real leaded cut crystal rings. It sings a clear bell tone that hangs in the air for a second or two. Cheap glass gives you a dull click and nothing more. A deep-cut fruit or berry bowl in a strong pattern in good condition regularly sells for $200 to $600. Some bring far more, and they get donated constantly because the owner thought it was just heavy old glass taking up space. But here is what makes the next piece even more dangerous to lose. Because sometimes that same bowl is hiding a tiny signature that multiplies its value overnight, and almost nobody knows to look for it. That signature is why the second piece breaks my heart the most. Somebody sees an old cut glass vase, decides it is dated and dusty, and drops it in the giveaway pile without ever turning it over, because the secret is on the bottom and it is almost invisible. Some of the finest American cut glass was signed by its maker with an acid stamp. It is not engraved. It is not a paper label. It is a faint, frosted mark etched right into the polished glass, and it is so light that you can hold the piece in full daylight and miss it completely. The name you most want to find is Hawkes. Thomas Hawkes ran a cut glass works in Corning, New York, and his firm won the grand prize for cut glass at the Paris Exposition in 1889, beating the finest houses of Europe. A signed Hawkes piece carries a small mark, often a trefoil, a little three-leaf clover shape, sometimes with the name Hawkes curved around it. Here is how you find it. Take the piece to a window in daylight, or hold it under a bright lamp. Turn it slowly and breathe on the smooth areas of the base, the way you would fog a mirror. The acid mark is slightly more porous than the polished glass around it, so your breath clings to it and the hidden signature ghosts into view for just a moment. People have owned a piece for 30 years and never seen the mark until they did this. An unsigned, brilliant cut bowl might bring $200. Put a clear Hawkes signature on that same bowl and serious collectors will pay $400, $500, $600 and up, sometimes into the thousands for the rarer patterns. The mark alone can double or triple the money. And a woman I knew nearly learned that the hard way. She had a tall cut vase set aside for the church rummage table, priced at $4. On a whim, she fogged the base before she wrapped it, and there it was, that little clover. She kept it. Later it appraised at over $700. But even a signed piece in plain crystal is not the top of this ladder, because the next thing I want to show you adds one element that sends the value soaring, and it is the one people mistake for cheap colored glass every single time. Someone glances at a red or blue cut glass bowl and assumes it is a dime store trinket, so out the door it goes. That assumption can cost them $1,000 or more. What I am talking about is called cut to clear, or overlay crystal. The glassmaker took a clear crystal blank and coated the outer surface with a thin layer of colored glass, cranberry red, cobalt blue, deep emerald green, or amber. Then the cutter carved the pattern through that colored skin down into the clear crystal underneath. So the finished piece shows brilliant color in the raised areas and sparkling clear crystal wherever the wheel cut through. This is where you have to look closely, because this detail is the whole game. On genuine cut to clear, run your finger over the surface. You can feel and see that the color lives only on the very top layer. Inside the deep cuts, the glass turns clear. The color has an edge, a defined line where the cuttings slice through it. On cheap, modern colored glass, the color goes all the way through the body evenly, with no clear crystal revealed anywhere. Cut to clear was made both in America and in Europe, especially in Bohemia and in France. The colored versions are far rarer than plain crystal because the process was harder and the color layer was expensive. A cranberry cut to clear decanter or a cobalt cut to clear bowl in a strong pattern regularly runs from $400 to over $1,000, and exceptional signed examples go much higher. The tragedy is that colored glass is exactly what people assume has no value. They will keep a plain clear bowl and give away the red one, when the red one is worth 3 times as much. Now I want to stop and talk directly to you, the one who is sure none of this applies. You are thinking your boxes hold nothing but ordinary junk, that the good things are always in someone else's attic. This next part is specifically for you, because the smallest pieces are the ones you are most likely to already own and never suspect. Go to your kitchen, go to the back of the china cabinet, the dining room hutch, the box in the closet you have not opened since the funeral. I want you to look for the little things. The small cut glass cruets that once held oil and vinegar, the squat salt and pepper shakers with silver tops, the tiny toothpick holders, the little handled nappy dishes barely bigger than your palm, the perfume bottles with the faceted stoppers. These small pieces are the survivors, because they were too pretty to throw away but too small to use, so they got shoved to the back and forgotten. And here's what nobody tells you. A single American brilliant cut glass cruet in a good pattern can bring $100 to $250. A cut glass toothpick holder, that tiny thing you would never look at twice, can fetch over $100 if the pattern is right. A small signed bonbon dish, more than that. So tonight, here is your task, and you can do all of it with your own 2 hands. Take each small glass piece to a lamp. First, feel the weight against its size. Too heavy for how small it is means real lead crystal. Second, drag your fingernail lightly across the pattern and feel for that sharp catch. Third, flick the rim and listen for the bell tone, not the dull tap. Fourth, and this is the one people forget, fog the base with your breath and look for a hidden acid signature. Do those 4 things and you will know in 60 seconds whether you are holding $2 or $200. I promise you, more of these small pieces are worth real money than anyone believes. And once you start finding them, you will understand why the larger pieces I am about to show you are the ones I truly worry about, because they are the easiest of all to lose. The next one leaves the house wrapped in newspaper more often than any piece on this list. Someone is clearing out a parent's dining room, finds a big cut glass decanter with a heavy stopper, decides it is old and takes up too much space, and sets it out for $1. That decanter could be a Dorfinger. Christian Dorflinger ran one of the greatest glassworks in American history in White Mills, Pennsylvania. His crystal was so fine that it was chosen for the White House. Presidents drank from Dorflinger glass. Lincoln's administration ordered it, and most people have never heard the name, which is exactly why his pieces slipped through their fingers. Dorflinger rarely signed his work, which is part of the trouble. So you have to read the glass itself. Look at the clarity first. Dorflinger used an exceptionally pure, colorless crystal, so clean it looks almost like water, with no gray or yellow tint. Hold it against a sheet of white paper, and the finest pieces stay perfectly clear and bright. Then look at the cutting. The patterns are precise, deep, and the little hobstar shapes, those pinwheel-like stars, have crisp, even points that all meet cleanly in the center. A Dorflinger cut glass decanter in a strong pattern, with its original matching stopper, commonly sells from $300 to $800, and the rarer forms climb well past that. But here is the detail that costs people everything. The stopper must match. These stoppers were ground to fit one specific bottle by hand, and a matched original stopper can be a third of the total value. When the stopper gets separated, tossed, or broken, the piece loses a fortune. So, if you find the bottle, hunt down the stopper before you decide anything. Therefore, the lesson repeats, and it gets more expensive each time. The plain-looking thing is the valuable thing, and the details you cannot see at a glance are where the money hides. Think about how many bases you have never breathed on, how many marks have ghosted right past you because nobody ever showed you the trick that stops now. Everything I am teaching you in this video is drawn from the same collection I put together for people exactly like you, called the Hidden Value Complete System, and it arrives straight to your email the moment you get it. It walks you through every category I am showing tonight, glassware, depression glass, and beyond. And it hands you the full authentication system so you can read hallmarks and maker's marks like a professional appraiser, not a guesser. Here is a free test you can run before you even finish this video. Walk to your cabinet, pick up any old glass piece, fog the base the way I just showed you, and see if a hidden mark ghosts into view. The book proves its own claim right there in your hands, no dealer needed. The fastest way to get the books is to scan the QR code right there on your screen, or go to the link in the description or the pinned comment. And that trick with the breadth and the base is exactly what nearly saved a woman who had one piece set aside for the church table. But if you think decanters are easy to overlook, wait until you see what happens with the next maker, because this one was signed with a sword, and the sword tells a story worth a small fortune. Somebody finds a shallow cut glass plate or a low bowl, thinks it is just a dusty serving dish, and it goes in the yard sale box for 50 cents. If it carries a tiny etched sword on the bottom, that is a catastrophe. The Libby Glass Company of Toledo, Ohio, was the giant of American cut glass. They built an entire working glass factory at the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago and cut crystal in front of the crowds. Their finest work was breathtaking, and they marked many pieces with an acid stamp shaped like a saber, a little sword, sometimes with the name Libby. You find it the same way you found the Hawkes mark. Fog the base with your breath, tilt it under the light, and watch for that ghostly sword or the Libby name to appear. Some of their marks are so faint they only show at the exact right angle, so turn the piece slowly and keep breathing on it. A signed Libby bowl in a good pattern runs $300 to $700 regularly, and their premium patterns and rarer forms go into the thousands. There was a Libby punch bowl and pieces from their exhibition work that read the kind of prices most people would never believe for cut glass. And the near miss that still bothers me happened at a church sale in Ohio. A shallow Libby bowl sat on a folding table marked $1 because it had a little sticker residue on the base that hid the mark. Somebody peeled the sticker, saw the sword, and bought it. It resold for more than $600. The person who priced it never knew what walked out the door. But the sword is not the rarest signature to find, and the next kind of cut crystal fools even experienced people, because at first glance it barely looks cut at all. Someone sees a heavy glass vase, engraved with soft flowing flowers and leaves, decides it looks old-fashioned, and packs it off to the donation center. That gentle-looking piece might be rock crystal engraving, and it is some of the most valuable glass in this whole story. Rock crystal is not the sparkling, sharp, faceted look most people picture. It is the opposite. The design is engraved into the surface with copper wheels and then polished back to a smooth, glossy, clear finish. So the pattern of flowers, vines, and scrolls feels flowing and soft to the touch instead of sharp. It takes an enormous amount of skilled labor, which is why it was expensive then and precious now. The great names here are Sinclair and Tuthill, H.P. Sinclair cut glass in Corning, New York in the early 1900s and was famous for elegant engraved work. The Tuthill Company in Middletown, New York made exquisite intaglio and rock crystal pieces that collectors chase to this day. A signed Tuthill or Sinclair rock crystal piece can sell for several hundred to well over $1,000. Here is how you know you are holding something special. Run your fingertips across the flowers. If the design is smooth and polished rather than sharp and frosted, and the glass is heavy leaded crystal that rings, you may be looking at rock crystal engraving. Then check for a signature, because Tuthill often signed with a tiny etched name, sometimes with a little flower, and Sinclair used an S in a wreath or laurel design. People give these away precisely because they do not sparkle like they expect crystal to sparkle. The soft polished look reads as plain to them. It is anything but plain. Therefore, we come to the pieces that are so big and so heavy that people assume they must be worthless, because surely nothing that awkward could be worth keeping. That assumption is about to cost someone thousands. A family clears out a dining room and finds an enormous cut glass bowl, so heavy it takes 2 hands to lift, and they decide it is impractical and old and nobody wants it. They set it out cheap. That giant bowl could be worth more than everything else in the room combined. I am talking about the large cut glass punch bowls, the great centerpiece bowls, and the tall-footed compotes of the American Brilliant period. These were the showpieces. A family bought one for a wedding, displayed it for special occasions, and it became the most expensive single object of glass they ever owned. Many were made in 2 pieces, a deep bowl that sat on a separate cut glass base or pedestal. A fine 2-piece cut glass punch bowl in a strong pattern, in excellent condition, regularly sells from $1,000 to $5,000, and the rare signed examples in the best patterns have gone much higher. These are not small numbers. This is the value of a used car sitting in a box marked free to good home. Here is what to check, because condition rules everything at this level. Run your fingers around the entire rim and every point of the pattern, feeling for chips and flakes. Hold it to the light and look for cracks, especially around the base where the weight stresses the glass. A tiny chip that can be professionally polished out might cost only a little value. A crack costs most of it. And confirm both halves are present, because a punch bowl missing its matching stand loses a huge share of its worth. But even these grand bowls are not the piece I promised you at the start, because there is one more maker whose mark turns an ordinary seeming piece into a small treasure, and this one crossed an ocean to reach your cabinet. Someone finds an elegant cut glass decanter or a set of wine glasses, assumes they are just old European glass of no importance, and sells the lot for pocket change. If those pieces carry the right European mark, that is a painful mistake. Not all the finest cut crystal was American. Bohemia, in what is now the Czech Republic, produced spectacular cut and colored crystal for centuries. And France gave us Baccarat and St. Louis, and Belgium gave us Val St. Lambert, names that mean serious money to collectors around the world. Baccarat, founded in France in 1764, marked much of its later work with an acid stamp or an engraved mark, often reading Baccarat, France, sometimes with a little logo of a decanter and glasses in a circle. Val St. Lambert from Belgium is prized especially for its colored cut to clear pieces. A signed Baccarat decanter or a set of their cut crystal glasses can bring several hundred to well over $1,000, and their colored and rare pieces climb far higher. So when you find European cut glass, do not dismiss it as generic. Fog the base, check the rim, look for an engraved or acid mark, and read the name carefully. These marks are your proof, and proof is what turns a guess into a check for real money. The near miss here is common because the pieces look so at home in an everyday cabinet. A woman I heard from had a set of 6 cut wine glasses she was about to give to a neighbor. Something made her check the base first. Baccarat. The set was worth several $100s. The neighbor got a nice card instead, but now we arrive at the one I have been holding back. The single piece most likely to be given away, and the one that has quietly commanded the highest prices of all. This is the one I need you to remember long after this video ends. Picture a cut glass bowl, or a tray, or a decanter, covered in a dense, intricate pattern of little raised buttons and fine cross-hatched pyramids, so packed together that the whole surface glitters like it is covered in diamonds. Most people look at that busy, old-fashioned design and think it is too fussy, too dated, and they cannot wait to get rid of it. That pattern has a name. It is called the Russian pattern, and it is one of the most valuable cut glass patterns ever made. The Russian pattern was patented in 1882 by a cutter named Philip MacDonald working for the Hawkes Company in Corning, New York. It became so admired that it was chosen for the diplomatic service and for use in the American White House and by Russian royalty, which is how it earned its name. The cutting is extraordinarily labor-intensive. A field of pointed stars and cut buttons and hobnails covering the entire surface, every facet done by hand. Genuine Russian pattern pieces from the American Brilliant period, especially signed Hawkes examples, have sold from the low thousands to tens of thousands of dollars, depending on form and rarity. A single fine tray or a covered piece in this pattern can be worth more than an entire estate's worth of ordinary dishware, and people give it away because they find it too busy and too old-fashioned for modern taste. Here is exactly how you recognize it, so you never let one slip past you. Look for a surface entirely covered by a repeating unit made of a raised button surrounded by fine cut points radiating outward like a star, with tiny cross-cut pyramids filling every space between. There is no plain, uncut glass showing anywhere. The whole thing sparkles because every square inch is worked. Then fog the base and hunt for the Hawkes clover mark, because a signed Russian pattern piece is the jackpot. The story that proves this happened in a real family. Pieces of Russian pattern cut glass have sat in china cabinets for generations, dismissed as grandmother's fussy old dishes, passed down, not because anyone valued them, but because no one wanted the guilt of throwing them out. Then one person, sorting an inheritance, finally thought to look up the pattern, found that little clover on the base, and discovered that the busy old bowl nobody liked was the most valuable object in the house. That is how close these come to being lost. One curious person, one turned-over base, standing between a treasure and a donation bin. You have the knowledge now that the person at that garage sale did not. You will not set the heavy bowl out for $3. You will not give away the red glass because you thought color meant cheap. You will fog the base before anything leaves your house. That feeling right now, the small wave of relief that you checked before you let it go, hold on to that. Because that is the difference between a story you tell with a smile and a story you tell with regret. You are the kind of person who refuses to let something valuable slip away for nothing, and that instinct just saved you real money. So tell me, which piece made you get up and go look? Was it the cut to clear in a color you almost gave away, the small cruet hiding at the back of the cabinet, or that busy old Russian pattern bowl you never liked? Go find it, turn it over, fog the base, and then come tell me in the comments what you discovered. I read them, and I want to know what you almost lost. Leave a comment right now, even one line, and tell me which one you are going to check tonight. And if you refuse to keep losing the value hiding in your own home, come with the rest of us who are learning to catch it in time. Subscribe, because the next thing I am opening up is the old costume jewelry drawer. And there is one clasp style from the 1940s that people throw away every single day without knowing it, is the tell for a piece worth hundreds. You do not want to miss which clasp it is. I will see you there. Before you go, one more thing. This video gave you the overview, but inside the Hidden Treasures circle, the Maker's Mark spotting guide continues right where we stopped. You can ask me about a piece on your shelf, and a real person, me, answers you myself. You won't be doing this alone. Just point your phone's camera at the code on your screen, and you can cancel any time with one click. Now, before you go check that cabinet, let me show you something else hiding in plain sight. Those pretty colored glass pieces from years ago could be worth a small treasure, too. That video is starting right here.